Hey there, fellow fruit growers. I'm down here. I've pruned my apple trees for the winter, and today I'm going to show you how I cleft graft apples, how you can have multiple varieties of apples on a single tree. Okay, so here's everything we need to get started. We've got our budwood, of course, and then we've got our grafting knife. You can also use a utility knife. Just be very, very careful. You just want any pocket knife will do, really. You just need to be sure it's nice and sharp and clean. So I like to use rubbing alcohol in a little spray bottle to disinfect all of my tools, including my pruning shears. Felcos I think are the best ones money can buy. Also need a parafilm. This is a very stretchy plastic tape which you'll wrap the grafts in. You can see it gets really nice and thin, and that will keep your grafts from drying out. This is just some regular green garden tie that I like to put around the graft to tighten it up. And if you're so inclined, you can use a little crescent wrench like this when you're trying to match the width of your scion and the width of your rootstock. Last year for this I bought a caliper, which works very well, but that's a little more expensive. Not everybody has one of those. And finally, some foil tags for labeling the variety and date of your graft. Alright, so this is a bud stick of Beverly Hills. It's a nice low chill apple from California. And this is a little sprig off of my Dorsett Golden. So I'm going to graft my Beverly Hills onto the Dorsett Golden. And so the first thing I'm going to want to do is take my bud stick and I want to trim it and cut it so it's like a chisel. And I always try to give myself plenty of room to mess up. With a nice sharp knife. Get a nice flat. This is a lot easier to do when there's not a camera between you and what you're working on. Okay, so there's a nice wedge. Okay, next I'm going to split the branch where I want to put the graft. Clips. I'm going to try to pick a nice spot right there. A nice clean cut. I'm going to move in and I'm going to split that branch down the middle. And this is where you need to be very careful and watch your fingers. And I never put my fingers in front of the knife. Just walk it in carefully. And just easy pressure. If you put too much pressure on it, it'll crack ahead of the blade and split, and you won't get a nice clean cut. See, all the way down, got a nice clean cut. Okay, now that our stalk is split, we're going to take our budwood and we're going to just insert it into our incision. You might have to work it back and forth just a little bit. Make sure you get good contact all the way up and down. And you may not. They don't always fit just right, but apples are very forgiving. Okay, so now that our scion is inserted into the stalk, we're going to wrap it with parafilm. You just have to pull it enough to get it to stretch, but not so hard that it tears. And the first thing I like to do is just wrap the stalk. Then I like to take a rubber band and wrap that around the cleft So just give it some extra pressure in holding that scion in place where I want it. Hope that will help give it really good contact. Now I'm not pulling this too tight, just enough to squeeze it a little bit. Now that I have that in place, I'll go all the way up to scion. Very important to keep it from drying out. And don't worry about covering up the buds. The buds will push through the parafilm when they start to grow. Here's an example of what a cleft graft will look like once it heals. So you can see here's the original incision, and this is the scion that was inserted into it. This is a cinnamon spice apple that I grafted on January 28th, 2012. For more information on growing fruit trees in the Houston area, check out my website at www.thebellhouse.weebly.com.